Hello, my holy home sisters. So today we're going to be responding to a question that came in regarding the loneliness that a person can feel when things don't go according to the plan. For example, and these are the examples that were given by the person who sent in the question. You expected to become pregnant and then you get your period. Or you become pregnant when you didn't expect that to happen. And added to the fact, if your husband isn't on board with that, sometimes you can end up feeling so lonely in these situations, and you just end up feeling extremely disappointed because this wasn't in your plan. So let's talk about disappointment first. And I want to define disappointment for you. This is how I understand it. Disappointment is when my list doesn't match Hashem's list. I have a list. I have a list of everything that I want for my life. What should happen, when it should happen, how it should happen, and then it doesn't happen. Or it doesn't happen in the way I expected it to happen. Or exactly the opposite thing happens. So something that I absolutely didn't want. And this, my friends, is what we call disappointment. I wanted this, but I didn't get it. I didn't want this, but I got it. I have a list, and Hashem has a list, and our lists just don't match. So the very first thing we need to talk about is basic Emunah and Bitachon. And that is that Hashem loves every single one of us more than we could ever imagine. And our lives, each individual life, each individual couple, each individual family has a life that is 100% custom made for them, tailored, orchestrated, exactly, precisely the way it is meant to be, because that is what is absolutely best for that person, for that couple, for that family. Everything. Nothing is random. Nothing is arbitrary. Every single thing that happens is decided and done intentionally and deliberately by Hashem, who loves us so much and only wants to give us what is absolutely best for us. And that means it's not only what we're given, but it's also when we're given it and how we're given it, because there is a huge picture out there that we aren't privy to. We just see the here and now. We see the present. We understand our emotions, and emotions live in the present. So we understand how we're feeling right now, but we don't see the past and we don't see the future. And we definitely don't see the entire picture. We see our own little piece to this grand world and universe. All we see is the little here and now that is right in front of us. But there is a much bigger picture out there. I'm sure you all heard the story that happened just a few days ago. Rav Tzvi Kushalovsky, who lives in Eretz Yisrael, he is 88 years old and just had a baby for the first time in his life. His wife is 56. It's his second marriage. His first wife, he was never able to have children with her. And they got married a few years ago, and they just had a baby. And it's like the biggest miracle. It's the most incredible news. I was so excited when I heard about that. So happy for them. And then I did the worst thing you can ever do. I read the comments. Some of the comments online were so negative and so disrespectful, and talking all about how terrible it is to bring a child into the world at that age. He's never going to be able to raise him. And at the first thing I'm thinking, and I'm reading these comments and I'm looking at who are the people writing them, and they all seem to be people who believe in Hashem. Whose idea was it to send a child into the world through that couple? Could it have happened if Hashem didn't want it to happen? Hashem knows what he's doing. This was the moment that Hashem decided he is ready to be a father to that special neshama. Who are we to interfere with that miracle? And then I have another example, my own personal story. About 2 years ago, I was expecting a child that I was so excited about because my youngest was 10, and I waited 10 years for that to happen, and I kind of gave up. I said, okay, the beautiful, wonderful family that Hashem gave me is the family Hashem wants me to have, and that was it. And this was like the biggest treat, and I was so excited. And everything was fine, strong heartbeat, the baby was growing, I was progressing along in my pregnancy. Now, at the same time, I had a daughter who was engaged, and I was so excited because I found the most gorgeous maternity gown to wear to her wedding. And all of a sudden, her engagement was broken, and I lost the baby. my pregnancy was over. And the first thing I did was blame myself. For like a full day, I blamed myself. Why? Because this is my first pregnancy when I was in my 40s, okay? All the other pregnancies, I was much younger, of course, and I had perfect pregnancies, no issues at all. And I was feeling great the whole time. So I just treated this one the same way. And I went on a whole speaking tour. I was running around, I was traveling, I was speaking, I was active, running. And on the last day of my whole speaking tour is when I started spotting. And it took a whole weekend for me to lose that pregnancy. It was very painful. I was in labor the whole weekend. It wasn't easy. But the first thing I said was, oh, I'm such an idiot. I'm in my 40s. I should have been in bed. This was my fault. I could have prevented it. And I beat myself up for a whole day until I came back to my senses and I said, 1 minute, Yaffa. If Hashem wanted this baby to have been here, the baby would be here regardless. And I even felt my brain moving towards an example of the Holocaust. How many beautiful, healthy, whole babies were born in the Holocaust when their mothers were starving and had these heavy workloads throughout the whole day. And they couldn't take care of themselves. And all these beautiful, healthy babies were born because Hashem wanted those babies to be born. So we can do whatever we do. If Hashem wants something to happen, it will happen. If Hashem doesn't want it to happen, it won't happen. Only Hashem is in charge of which babies will be born and when they will come. A friend of mine was telling me about a close friend of hers who was expressing to her that she really wanted to have another baby, but her husband was not on board with it. She has 4 kids and she was like, I just want to have that 5th. And I don't know what to do. So my friend told her, talk to your husband about it. Tell him how important it is for you to have one more, because she said to her, I regret not having another child that I really wanted to have, and I don't want you to go through that. Just speak to your husband about it. And she did, and she really encouraged him, and he was on board to have another child. Fast forward 9 months, Chaz de Hashem, they just had triplets, okay? Triplets. Does her husband not love every single one of those babies? Beyond. He is over the moon. He never realized how much he needed that bracha in his life. You see, we see life from a very limited perspective. We just see the here and now. We see the present. We see what we are experiencing right now in this world. We don't see life as it is. We see life as we are. And that's the perspective that we go through every single day. But there is a much bigger picture out there that is all part of Hashem's plan. But we don't see it because we are so busy just looking at our plan. It's almost Purim. And of course, the energy in the air is the energy of Esther Hamalka, the queen, who was the heroine of the Purim story, who saved the entire Jewish nation. If you think about it for a minute. It's an incredible story, the miracle, and we're so excited. Every year we read it and we go celebrate. Whoa, yay, miracle, thank you Hashem. We were freed, we were saved from that horrible decree. Nothing bad happened. Everything was amazing, and that's why we sing and we dance and we laugh, and there is a time of so much simcha, and we drink and we get dressed up and we have our parties. But who didn't have a happy ending the way we do? You know who? Esther. She remained in the palace the rest of her life. She didn't go out and celebrate the Purim story. We do. She didn't. And, being in the palace to her was not easy. In the beginning when it happened, there was a lot of why me moments. Why did this happen to me? Esther didn't want it. Everybody else wanted it, and they didn't get it. Esther didn't want it, and she got it. And that wasn't easy for her. And the loneliness that she experienced in that palace, the only Jewish woman there. And nobody knew who she was. She couldn't even present herself to anyone as her authentic self. She didn't even know what her identity was anymore at that point. And it was very difficult for her until that one moment when she had this mindset shift, when she met with Mordechai at the gate, and he gave her a pep talk, and he said, Esther, my sweet dear Esther, Umi Yodea, who knows, if maybe, just maybe, you going to the king. This is at the moment when Esther was so afraid to go to see the king because she wasn't invited and he could have killed her. And we know that he's good at killing his queens. And she was scared, very legitimately. And Mordechai said to her, Esther, maybe the entire reason that you're in the palace is all for this moment. Maybe this is your mission. This is who you are. You are there to save the Jewish nation from the horrible decrees. And we read that and we're like, okay, yeah, obviously that's why she's there, because look what happened. Okay, that's because we know the end of the story. Esther was still living that story. She didn't know the ending. She didn't know that everyone was going to live happily ever after. She didn't know that she was going to be the heroine to save the Jewish nation. She didn't know that that was her mission. But the moment Mordechai suggested that to her, that is when she stepped into her identity and she said, this is my mission. This is why all this has been happening to me. It wasn't in my plan. It wasn't on my list, but this is on Hashem's list. Maybe because this is my mission in life. And that's why we are taught. Az yemales chok pinu. Then in the future, our mouths will be filled with laughter. We're going to laugh and laugh and laugh. Why? Because when we get to the end of the story, we're going to look back and we're going to see how everything that happened was intentional and deliberate and on purpose, because this is how we step into our identities. This is how we become the people we're meant to be and how we could accomplish our mission in this world. Every single thing that we are going through right now, we can't see it because we're so stuck in the moment. We don't see the end. We don't see the big picture. We don't see how it's all going to work out in the end. We're seeing the here and now. And it's really difficult to be besimcha when we're in that pain. But if we can look to the future for a moment and realize at the end, az yemales chok pinu, we're going to be laughing and laughing because we're going to see how amazing our journeys have been once we see the end, once we understand why this had to happen. Now, just as a little practical tip, because I know the loneliness is not easy, I would suggest to please try and share what you're going through with people that you love and people that you trust. Invite them in. You'll be surprised at how understanding people will be. Share from your heart, share from your soul. If you have a mother, sisters, if you have close friends, share it with them. And you'll see that you're not alone. You're much less alone than you thought you were. You just have to take that step. Step into your identity. This is who I am. This is where Hashem has put me. This is what I'm experiencing. And I'm experiencing it so that I could become the best me, so that I could be the hero of my story. Esther was the heroine of her story, but we all get to be the heroines of our own stories. But we don't have to do it alone. So let's allow ourselves to open up and selectively share with the people we love and trust, so that we don't have to go through this alone. And I give you all a bracha that you should always feel connected. You should always feel loved. You should always feel Hashem with you every step of the way. You should step into your identity and understand your mission. And you should start living as the heroine of your life, the heroine that you truly are.